Welcome to another episode of TAAP. I'm Chad,
I'm Michael.
and we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're not necessarily going to talk about guns, but we're going to talk about guns. Gonna do something we decided to call two-way news. It's not going to be a regular segment, but anytime that there's some interesting news, I think we should talk about it.
I agree, and there's some interesting news.
There has been a lot of interesting news, especially over this last week or so. Some developments, but I want to kind of rewind before we get to what just happened.
Okay.
So most people out there that are in the 2A community, they're aware of New York State Rifle versus Bruin.
Right.
And that was the ruling a couple of years ago that gave us a whole lot of our Second Amendment rights back.
Correct.
It essentially said that the states have to follow a set of rules. They just can't say, nope, you can't do that because we don't want you to.
Which is a good thing. There was a lot of things that were in there that some states were kind of taking advantage of, right?
They were essentially tossing out the Second Amendment in some cases and saying, we don't think you should be able to do this, so you can't. And SCOTUS said, well, no, you have to follow the Second Amendment, and here are the guidelines that you have to follow. And they did a really good job of spelling it out. There's still some gray areas. There's probably always going to be gray areas.
Yeah.
But they did a really good job with that.
And the biggest problem is I don't like certain governments, whether they be federal, state, city, whatever it is, saying, well, I know we have the Second Amendment. I know they can do that in that state, but in our state, we're going to do things a little differently.
Right.
I'm sorry. I like rules. Don't get me wrong. But I think everybody should be playing by the same rules.
And they need to be just rules that follow the Constitution.
Correct.
So, yeah, and then from there, fast forward again to this is one that was within the last week or so.
Yeah, you're going to say this name.
Yeah. It's a ruling that a lot of people have been waiting to see how the Supreme Court rules on it. And that's U.S. versus Rahimi.
Yep.
And that came out, it's within the last 7 days, I think. Unfortunately, they ruled 8-1, kind of against the 2A community. I don't know a ton about what all played into this, and I haven't had a chance to really dig into the decisions, both the decision that was the 8-1 decision and then the dissenting decision. What I do know and understand at least is this wasn't a decision that's going to hurt the 2A community a ton because it wasn't really broadly written. A lot of what this has to do with is Rahimi wanted his rights to own a firearm and carry a firearm protected even though he had a order of protection against him. And the state said, no, you can't. You can't have firearms with that order against you.
I don't know how I feel about that because I'm a very big 2A supporter.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't.
Right.
On the other hand, I have to say, if you do something that loses your rights through a court system, then you can even temporarily lose those rights.
Right. Now here's my concern with how this works personally. It's in some places it's a lot easier to get an order of protection than in others.
Yeah.
There are some places where someone can go down to the courthouse, fill out some paperwork, and turn it in, and they don't even really have to swear to it. They just have to say, this is how I see things as they happened, and a judge will sign off on it.
So now that's a lot of those are temporary orders,
Mm-hmm.
which temporary orders then have to go to like if it's a restraining order for domestic violence or something like that. I'm okay on erring on the side of caution when you're talking about a temporary and then go to the real hearing. Now, if you find yourself in this situation and you like your guns, you better hire a good lawyer.
Right.
The 2A community, we're not a community that you should take the cheap way out.
No.
I would say owning guns are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Maintaining guns are expensive. Maintaining your rights are also expensive.
Right. Yeah, and you know, you don't want to run into a situation where they get taken, and then even if it gets thrown out and they say, oh, you know what, there's no reason for this order of protection, sometimes trying to get those firearms back from whatever authority decides to hold them is the bigger pain.
Which is why you hire an attorney, you let them take care of it for you.
Yeah, yeah, and then you either work out something where your attorney holds on to them, or even better yet, if you know it's coming, you find a good friend that they hold on to them, and nope, I don't have any firearms anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Because then you're not in possession of them. But this decision, with what I've seen of it so far and what I've been able to dig into, it was written very narrow, in the fact that they referred back to him more than just as a broad rule. So I don't know that ruling in and of itself is going to hurt us a lot, but that does open the floodgates for, there's about 6 or 7 other cases that involve two-way, either directly or indirectly, that there was a hold on those because of this ruling, and to see where it would go, because if it was written broad, you know, those ones would be real easy and essentially say, well, we're referring back to Rahimi and this is how it is. Kind of like how they do stuff with Bruin now.
I'm a little more concerned that how that's going to impact and cause issues with maybe some red law states.
Yeah. Although those red laws have been challenged a lot and they're not holding up. So
I understand that, but I don't want any ammo for that.
Right.
I'd like that to be an empty gun on that side.
Well,
but we'll see.
And with this, I think because it refers a lot back to, you already have this order against you.
Yeah.
Not just, you know, you make the ex-girlfriend mad and she's going to get back at you and goes and tells the police, oh, he's crazy. Okay, well, they go and take all your guns. Just on her word.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Getting into, what's today, the 24th, so 10 and 11 days ago. 2, in my mind, of the biggest rulings that are going to start the crumbling of the power of the ATF.
Yeah. I'm happy for these.
I am too.
I'm very
I was
overjoyed.
looking forward to both of these, and I'm glad they fell the way they did.
Right.
But they're stripping some of that overreach power that the ATF has tried to use. For those of you that don't know, the ATF technically can't make laws and rules.
Now, that's not just from us. I've actually been to the ATF website where it says, you know, their myth page, and it says ATF creates laws. And it says false. Congress creates laws. ATF does not create laws.
But they sure try.
Well, if you had that power to try, you would too. I mean,
well, and that's where their overreach comes in. So the first one was on the 13th of June. This one was not a ruling by SCOTUS. It was a ruling by Judge Reed O'Connor of the U.S. District Court for the North District of Texas. And he vacated the pistol brace ban nationwide.
So, and I have an AR right here. I'm gonna show you kind of what a pistol brace and what they're saying here. All firearms here are unloaded. They're always unloaded. So nothing in there. Cleared. So this is an AR. Found this fishing one time. A pistol. So if this was an AR pistol, the barrel would be shorter. This is a full size.
It'd be under 16 inches.
It'd be under, yeah. So most of them you're going to be 7.5, 10 inches. The butt back here, where he has right here, pistols have this as well, because for ARs there's a tube here.
Yeah, a buffer tube.
It's always there. They're always in there. Those buffer tubes are just part of an AR, which makes great for a pistol brace. A pistol brace in no way changes how the bullet works. It doesn't change anything
the
about
gun
how the gun fires. It's just kind of a place for the gun to rest up against your shoulder
It's for support.
for support and actually better accuracy.
And really, one of the reasons those were developed is so that disabled veterans can fire ARs and
Correct.
things like that, because it allows them to brace it either on their shoulder or into their forearm and be able to use that type of firearm.
Now, I've played with a AR pistol.
So have I.
I will tell you, I'm not going to shoulder mount that like I do a regular AR. It doesn't feel the same. It's
No.
smaller. It's considerably smaller. Now I can see it resting like right here on my, right here on my,
Yep,
meat of there.
the crook of your elbow. And
yeah, I could see that. It's not going to change it being a pistol or not.
no,
The barrel length is what tells you if it's a pistol or
Right.
not.
Right. And, in all reality, you get an AR pistol or a short-barreled 300 Blackout or an AK
Yeah.
pistol or whatever it is. Yeah, you can brace that into your shoulder, which really I think the only time I would do that is in tighter quarters. Or
Yeah.
if I really wanted to be able to get a good sight picture. But
Yeah, I can see that.
it's not the same if you're putting a pistol brace on it. Now, if you put a full stock on it, then you've got a different animal.
Yeah, and just so you know, this is a full stock. So this is an adjustable stock. See how it comes in and out. See? So this is a full stock. This is a lot bigger distance. Generally, the pistol braces are like that.
No,
They're
much
just
smaller.
much smaller. It's basically like a little fin. So
And just something to put into your forearm or into the crook of your arm to give you a little bit more stability. Because it's, in all reality, even an AR out of a 7-inch barrel doesn't have much of a kick.
no, generally not.
It's 223 is a very light kicking round. You should have just held on to that because we're going to need it in a minute.
I know.
So, nationwide,
Oh,
pistol brace ban
you're right.
has been shot down to kind of give a little bit of a pun there. But thank you, Judge Reed O'Connor. I know that he has made several very pro 2A rulings, so definitely want to give him kudos from the 2A community.
Right.
And it's not that he's making these rulings because he's a big gun guy. He's making these rulings because when he looks at the Constitution and he looks at the case in front of him, he says, yeah, you can't do that. You overreached. And that's what this is. This isn't a 2A ruling as much as it is you overreached your boundaries, ATF, and so now you have to walk that back.
Right. It'd be the same thing as if a New York police officer comes to Omaha, Nebraska and says, yeah, I'm going to arrest you for a charge here. You're outside of your jurisdiction here, buddy. Go home.
And I would say, it's even more the Omaha police decide that you can only carry a .22 pistol, and that's the only thing you can carry. They can't make that ruling. That's something that has to be done by the city itself.
Well,
So,
I don't even think the city can make that's
At this point, no,
that's
they can't.
overreach. Yeah.
At this point, no, they can't. Bruin pretty much said, no, you can't.
Right.
There are some states that are trying to do things like that with magazine capacity bans and certain firearm bans, which are some of those ones I'm really excited to see come up before SCOTUS, because
Right.
I have a feeling they're going to tell them, no, you're not doing that. So, but then the other one that was a big ruling was on June 14th, and this one was from SCOTUS, and it was Garland versus Cargill. And this one, they said that the Trump-era ban on bump stocks was unconstitutional.
So, I guess the question that some people may have is what a bump stock is.
So what is a bump stock? Let's take a look at a bump stock here real quick. So this is the back end of an AR with a bump stock on it. Now this doesn't belong to either of us. It's just a picture that we found that does a really good job of illustrating what a bump stock is. So for those of you that don't know the components, first thing we're going to look at, and this is what Michael talked about earlier with the pistol braces and that part that sticks out of the back of the AR-15, and that is the buffer tube, which the cursor is kind of highlighting right now. So that sticks out of the back of the AR-15 whether you have a butt on it or not. So then that piece wrapping around it and going around to the grip, which the cursor is highlighting now, that is the actual bump stock. And what that is it kind of floats there. The buffer tube itself, when you fire this, will go into the back of that bump stock, and then there's a spring there that will catch the buffer tube and push it forward, so that when you pull that trigger, the firearm, you have the stock backed up into your shoulder, and then the firearm itself will bounce forward and back, causing that trigger to reset when it bounces back into your shoulder, and then when it's pushed back out, as long as you keep your finger in that same position, the trigger is going to be depressed again by the force of that firearm being pushed back out by the bump stock. It's kind of why they call it a bump stock, because it just kind of bumps around there. We'll switch the camera back to us, and Michael and I will kind of show you how it works with this.
So this one does not have a bump stock on it.
Why don't you shoulder that and point it this way, and we'll kind of...
So I'm past you, we're good. So if you look where my finger is, I'm going to put my finger like this. Basically what it does, and there, right on the trigger right there. So what the bump stock does is it moves the gun and my finger stays stationary. So it's a floating apparatus that goes right around the grip. So it's almost like a grip in a grip. And you're holding the grip, and then your finger, your hand placement doesn't change. What changes is the gun rocks back and forth like this. That's what happens. And then this I use here. Mine, I have an adjustable stock on this. Bump stocks are not adjustable, just so you know. But I could simulate on this. It does something like that with the spring. So
yeah, it's more like that, not the stock itself going back and forth.
So if I hold the stock, it's moving the gun back and forth. That apparatus comes right around here and wraps around.
Well, it starts here and it goes up the handle and then back attached to the stock itself. It's that entire one piece. If we look at that picture again, you'll see there's that little piece that connects down from the stock itself to the handguard right there. So it's all one piece, and again, it just causes that to reciprocate very, very fast. So it almost simulates the speed of a fully automatic firearm. But it's not fully automatic because that trigger is depressed and only one round is discharged.
Correct. So it's an accessory that I don't have one. It would be a fun toy for me, but I can't see me using one. I know how to bump stock. You don't have to have this bump stock to actually bump stock an AR. You can
bump fire.
Bump fire. It's called bump fire. But you don't have to have the apparatus to do it.
And you don't even have to modify the firearm itself.
No. If you know how to cause that gun to twist and jerk just right, and there's plenty of YouTube videos on showing you how to do it.
All right.
I think I think the ruling is good. I think I'm good with this ruling.
I like this ruling. From a legal aspect, what I've seen on this ruling, and I've looked into this more than I have the pistol brace one. The ATF tried to argue a lot of technicalities on, it makes the firearm fully automatic and this, that, and the other. And fortunately, Judge O'Connor saw through all of that when he made his ruling. He looked at the arguments from both sides and said, no, it's an accessory, and accessories cannot change a semi-automatic weapon to an automatic weapon.
Yeah.
And it doesn't breach that cross of the worksheet that the ATF has, the APA, which is a worksheet that they, whenever they're making these kind of decisions and laws, in quotes there, they have to go through a process and make sure that it fits certain criteria. And this definitely did not fit those criteria. So
I could see why they tried it. Don't get me wrong. I could see why they tried it. And everybody thinks, oh, it's a bump stock. It makes the gun more dangerous. You could shoot faster. You could do all this. This is what they say. And then I have to say, if anybody who has ever fired a fully automatic weapon could tell you, there's a difference.
Yeah,
A,
there is.
And B, it's called spray and pray for a reason.
Right. Well, here's my perfect argument to those people that say, well, it's fully automatic. You can do more damage and you can kill more people with it.
No, you spend more money on ammo.
Yeah. Something like that is for fun out on the range to, waste $100 real quick.
Right.
If you don't believe me that there's a reason you're more accurate with semi-automatic, go ask anyone that has done any sort of special forces work, any sort of operator. They will tell you to a person, unless they are doing something where they have something like a saw,
right,
where you can't go semi-automatic. If they have something that has the option of semi-automatic, that is what they use. Because they can...
Burst. They like burst, too.
They like burst, but most of them still stick with the semi-automatic because they can shoulder that and pop, pop. And if they need to do 3, they can pop, pop, pop. And they're more accurate. They're more controlled.
Yep. Automatics, don't get me wrong. Shooting a lot of bullets in certain circumstances would get it. If you are laying down cover fire, that spray and pray while you have a group of people moving up and you're covering them, no one's coming out to look at where the gun's firing, right? So everybody's going to be hiding when they hear the fire. When they hear the firing stop is when they come out and they shoot back. It's kind of a volley. It's like tennis. It really is.
It's kind of back and forth.
Right.
But yeah, this I think is a good rule. And for those people that think, oh well, everyone's going to go out and get a bump stock and go on shooting sprees. Well, here's what's probably going to happen if your average everyday gangster goes out and gets a bump stock. They're going to put the mag in the gun. They're going to fire it. That barrel's going to shoot straight up, and they're going to shoot 90% of that mag into the air.
Yeah, you're probably... I would say you're probably right. Here's what also is going to happen. It's an accessory, and you have to get used to the accessory. And unless you're actually used to shooting a bump stock, if you pick up a gun and try to shoot a bump stock, you're going to try and be manually moving that finger, and it takes a bit of getting used to use it.
It does. I've fired a bump stock before, and a bump stock doesn't even fire the same as a true automatic weapon.
No.
Because you have the front end of that firearm bouncing back and forth. So
feels weird.
It does. It really does feel weird. It's, to me, semi-automatic feels very, very natural.
Yeah.
Automatic doesn't feel as natural, but it's a hell of a lot of fun.
It is.
And a bump stock is kind of like that bastard child of the two of them.
Right.
So,
crazy.
I think that's going to wrap it up for this 2A news. I do want to say, if you want more information on all of these, one of the good sources that I use to get these, and I actually found out about these rulings on because, well, I was being kind of lazy and wasn't looking around for a lot of things, is the Armored Scholar on YouTube. He is a lawyer out of California and goes in depth on a lot of these, way over my head. But if you want the real ins and outs, he is someone good to look into, very smart when it comes to the law.
And what we'll do in the comments is we'll put like New York State rifle versus Bruin. We'll put all of those cases in there. So if you want to just copy and paste and do your research, I always recommend do your research, look it up, look at everything yourself as well.
Yes, definitely. Don't just take our word for it. I don't just take anyone else's word for it. Do your research and make sure what you're doing is going to keep you safe.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us. You want to take us out?
Yeah. Make sure you're always shooting straight and be safe. And she's a dirty girl, so Who's cleaning?
Oh wait.
Oh,
You went two. You went
I
two.
was
It's
trying
1, 2,
to-
3. Shoot.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, shoot. See, I thought the same thing. All right,
All
my
right.
girl to clean.